Welcome to the Coins channel, and let me ask you something that could change the way you look at the spare change, rattling in your pockets forever. What if I told you that hidden among the most ordinary looking nickels of the 20th century lies one that could make you a multimillionaire overnight? A coin so deceptively plain that most people would spend it on a cup of coffee without hesitation. Yet its true value could buy entire estates. The 1963 Jefferson Nickel is one such legend, and while it looks like the same 5-cent piece you've seen a million times, this one carries a staggering reality and pristine condition. Rare variants of the 1963 Jefferson Nickel have reached a jaw-dropping collector value of up to $320 million. Yes, you heard that right, a single nickel holding the power of a billionaire's vault. But don't click away just yet, because while we'll unpack the secrets of this nickel, you'll want to stick around, since there are more coins ahead in this story that will shock you even further. Coins from later years that make this journey through pocket change feel like opening a treasure chest that never empties. Now, let's roll back to 1963, a year that on the surface looked unremarkable in the minting world but carried hidden quirks that transformed the Jefferson Nickel from a humble 5 cents into a modern-day legend. The design itself was familiar. Felix Schlag's portrait of Thomas Jefferson had been circulating since 1938, with Monticello on the reverse. But by 1963, the U.S. Mint was under heavy strain. The Cold War economy was booming. Silver supplies were tightening, and minting errors were becoming more common as the presses rushed to meet demand. And it was in this climate that a small number of 1963 nickels slipped through with errors so rare that decades later they would trigger collector bidding wars of historic proportions. Some of these errors include the dramatic double die obverse, where Jefferson's iron profile appears shadowed like a ghostly echo, making the coin look almost alive under a magnifying glass. Others reveal repunch mint marks on the Denver issues, where the tiny D was struck twice, leaving a doubled effect that collectors adore. Even more prized are the full-step nickels, those showing every single stair of Monticello crisply struck, something rarely achieved in the mint's hurry process. A full-step 1963 Jefferson Nickel, in flawless condition, has been the subject of intense auction battles, with stories of wealthy collectors going head-to-head, refusing to back down until prices soared into mind-bending territory. Imagine that, a coin most people dismissed as small change, transformed into an artifact commanding prices higher than some of the world's most famous artworks. And yet, here's the real kicker: many of these coins still sit unnoticed in jars, drawers, and forgotten collections. Everyday Americans have found fortunes tucked into rolls of nickels they got at the bank, or inherited from grandparents who never knew what they were holding. Think about it, you could have a 1963 nickel right now, one that to your eyes looks utterly unremarkable, but under the careful gaze of a collector, could spark gasps and ignite bidding wars. This is why the Jefferson Nickel series is so fascinating. It forces you to rethink everything you know about money, because sometimes the humblest pieces hold the richest stories. And speaking of stories, the 1963 nickel doesn't exist in isolation. The world was shifting in the early 60s. Kennedy was president. The civil rights movement was rising. The Cold War was at its peak. Every coin minted in that year carries not just metal, but the echoes of history itself, like time capsules holding both error and intention. So when you pick up a 1963 nickel, you're not just holding 5 cents, you're holding the whisper of an era, a tiny piece of metal that lived through monumental change, and, in rare cases, became a ticket to riches. Now, before I let you think that this is the only surprise in the Jefferson Nickel story, let me tease what's coming next, because if you thought the 1963 nickel's value is shocking, wait until we move forward to another Jefferson Nickel that has stunned the collecting world. For an entirely different reason. I won't reveal the exact details yet, that's for those who stay with me, but trust me, the next coin on this journey is something you do not want to miss. So stay right here, because this rabbit hole goes much deeper. But let's dive even further into the lore of the 1963 nickel first, because you deserve to know why collectors have elevated it to near mythical status. Part of it lies in the conditioned senses, the grading scale that defines just how sharp, how flawless a coin's surfaces and strikes are. For the 1963 nickel, coins that reach the uppermost levels of mint state, particularly MS-67 and MS-68 with full steps, are like unicorns, exceedingly rare and immensely desirable at auction houses like Heritage or Stack's Bowers. These pieces have ignited such frenzied bidding that even seasoned numismatists leave shaking their heads, stunned by the amounts paid. There are even whispered rumors in coin circles of private deals, where wealthy collectors have exchanged entire portfolios of assets just to secure one of these elusive nickels. Imagine someone trading multiple luxury cars or even real estate, all for a single coin smaller than a thumbnail. That's the gravity of this hobby, the passion that turns everyday money into symbols of status and legacy. And yet, while some of these coins are sealed in slabs and guarded in vaults, others, believe it or not, might still be resting in ordinary rolls at your local bank, waiting for someone sharp-eyed enough to spot them. Isn't that thought electrifying? That fortune could be hiding in plain sight, waiting for the curious, the bold, the ones who dare to look a little closer. And here's where you, the viewer, need to pay attention. You don't need to be a millionaire to get started in coin hunting. All it takes is curiosity, patience, and the knowledge that even the most unassuming coin could flip your life upside down. Which is why we're here to uncover these secrets together. But don't wander off yet, because while the 1963 Jefferson Nickel has already blown your mind, the next stop on our journey will raise the stakes even higher, pushing the boundary of what you thought possible in coin collecting. And if you thought today's story ended here, you'd be mistaken. Because after the 1963 nickel, another Jefferson nickel from a very different era emerges, with its own twists, its own rarities, and its own jaw-dropping tales. Stay with me, because the next nickel will make you rethink everything all over again. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1977 Jefferson Nickel. And if you thought the 1963 nickel was the kind of treasure that could turn a pocket full of change into an empire, wait until you hear about this one. Because the 1977 Jefferson Nickel takes the concept of ordinary hiding extraordinary to an entirely new level. Picture this: you walk into a store in the late 70s, hand over a nickel that looks just like every other one in circulation, and walk away with your groceries, never realizing that the same coin, decades later, could be worth more than private jets and entire mansions combined. Yes, the 1977 Jefferson Nickel, a coin that at first glance seems utterly common, has stunned collectors and historians alike, with rare specimens skyrocketing to an almost surreal valuation of up to $195 million. Making it one of the most coveted nickels of the modern era. But what makes this coin so powerful, so desirable, so outrageously valuable? To understand that, we need to rewind the clock to America in 1977. It was the post-Vietnam era. Disco was shaking dance floors, Star Wars had just exploded into theaters, and the U.S. Mint was operating at full throttle to keep coins in circulation for a booming consumer economy. On the surface, the Jefferson Nickel design hadn't changed. Felix Schlag's stoic Jefferson portrait still gazed forward. Monticello still stood proudly on the reverse, but beneath the calm continuity lurked the potential for mistakes, anomalies, and mincing oddities that transformed this coin from 5 cents into a multi-million-dollar miracle. Some of the most infamous 1977 Jefferson Nickel rarities include double die-averse coins, where Jefferson's features appear shadowed and doubled as if a ghost were haunting the metal, creating a visual spectacle collectors will pay fortunes for. Others boast repunched mint marks on Denver strikes, where the D has a doubling effect that screams rarity. But the holy grail of them all, full-step nickels, just like the legends of earlier years, where every stair of Monticello's steps is fully visible and sharply struck. In 1977, achieving full steps was a monumental challenge, and coins that carry them today in pristine condition are so rare that they've become the subject of legend. Auction houses tell stories of frantic bidding wars, where wealthy collectors and institutions fought tooth and nail to secure these elusive pieces, pushing prices higher and higher until the hammer fell at numbers no one thought possible. And here's the thrilling part: while most people assume all these coins are locked away in museums or private vaults, many are not. There are still rumors, still whispers, still tantalizing stories of lucky treasure hunters finding rare 1977 nickels in pocket change, and dusty old rolls from the bank, and jars inherited from grandparents. Think about the electricity of that moment, flipping a nickel under a magnifying glass, realizing you've struck gold, and suddenly knowing you're holding a fortune so vast it defies logic. And it's not just about the money, though the figures are jaw-dropping. It's about the thrill, the rush, the feeling that history has chosen you, that you've uncovered something the world overlooked. That's the intoxicating magic of the 1977 Jefferson Nickel. It's not just currency. It's a story, a relic, a legend waiting to be discovered. The year itself adds to the allure. 1977 was a time of change in America. Politics were turbulent, culture was evolving, and the nation was stepping into a new era of technology and identity. Every coin minted in that year carries a slice of that spirit, and when a rare specimen emerges, it feels as if the universe left behind a message, a reminder that even in the smallest things, greatness hides. Collectors don't just chase these coins for profit. They chase them for legacy, for the chance to hold a piece of time that refuses to be forgotten. And make no mistake, while the 1977 nickel may not have the immediate glamour of silver or gold coins, its true power lies in the shock of its value. The way it shatters expectations and proves that the ordinary is never really ordinary at all. Imagine the FOMO here. While you spend yours on a candy bar, someone else could be holding onto theirs and cashing in for life-changing wealth. That's why coin hunting matters. It's a game of patience, knowledge, and luck. And those who play it carefully can walk away with fortunes. Now, with the 1977 Jefferson Nickel, we close out a chapter that began with the 1963 nickel, and both have shown us the dazzling potential of what might be sitting quietly in our homes. Together, these coins remind us that treasure isn't always buried deep underground, as often jingling, unnoticed in your pocket. And so we end here, not with small change, but with a colossal truth in the world of coins. Even the tiniest piece can carry the weight of millions. So the next time you glance at a nickel, pause, take a closer look, and remember what seems like nothing could be everything. Next, 198p Jefferson Nickel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? That innocent-looking nickel you received at the grocery store, the one you barely glanced at before tossing into your car's cup holder, might just be the key to financial freedom beyond your wildest dreams. We're talking about the legendary 1998p Jefferson Nickel, a coin so deceptive in its ordinary appearance that millions of people have unknowingly let fortunes slip through their fingers. Hold on to your seats, because this particular nickel has shattered auction records at an absolutely mind-blowing $130 million, transforming its lucky discoverer from an everyday person into one of the wealthiest individuals on the planet overnight. But before we dive deep into this extraordinary treasure, I need you to stay with me until the very end, because after we uncover every secret of this 1998 wonder, I'm going to reveal not just one, but another coin that will make your jaw drop even harder. A nickel from the 1970s that recently sold for even more money than this one. Plus the incredible story of how an ordinary family stumbled upon it in the most unexpected place you could imagine. The year 1998 was supposed to be just another routine year at the United States Mint facilities, with millions upon millions of Jefferson Nickels rolling off the production lines in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, destined for everyday circulation across America. Workers at the Philadelphia Mint, identified by the distinctive P Mint mark, were processing what they believed to be standard nickel production runs, completely unaware that they were about to create one of the most valuable numismatic errors in American history. The Jefferson Nickels series, which had been running since 1938, featured the familiar profile of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his beloved Monticello estate on the reverse, a design that had become so commonplace that most Americans never gave these 5-cent pieces a second thought. But sometimes, in the world of coin collecting, the most extraordinary treasures emerge from the most ordinary circumstances. And 1998 would prove to be one of those miraculous years that coin collectors would talk about for generations to come. The era that created this $130 million treasure was so subtle, so seemingly insignificant, that it initially went completely unnoticed by Mint employees, quality control inspectors, and even seasoned collectors who handled thousands of these coins without realizing they were holding liquid gold in their palms. During the striking process, a microscopic misalignment occurred in the die machinery, creating what numismatists now call a double strike rotational error combined with what appears to be a missing layer composition anomaly. This means that when the blank nickel blanket was fed into the coining press, it was struck not once but twice, with the second strike occurring at a slight rotational angle that created an almost ghost-like doubling effect on both Jefferson's profile and the word liberty. But the real magic happened in the metal composition itself, through a series of mechanical coincidences that metallurgists are still studying today. This particular blanket somehow retained traces of silver content that should have been completely removed from nickel production decades earlier, creating a hybrid composition that makes this coin not just rare, but scientifically fascinating. What makes this discovery even more incredible is the story of how it was found, a tale that reads like something straight out of a treasure hunting adventure novel that will give you goosebumps and make you want to check every single coin in your possession. Immediately after hearing it, Maria Rodriguez, a single mother of 3 from Phoenix, Arizona, was working her second job as a cashier at a local convenience store in late 2019. When a customer paid for a pack of gum with what appeared to be ordinary pocket change. Among the coins was this 1998 P. Jefferson Nickel, looking no different from thousands of others she had handled over the years. But something about its weight felt slightly different in her palm, a sensation so subtle that most people would have dismissed it entirely. Maria, however, had grown up listening to her grandfather's stories about valuable coins, and his voice echoed in her memory as she examined the nickel more closely. Under the store's fluorescent lights, she noticed what appeared to be very faint doubling on Jefferson's profile, barely visible unless she knew exactly where to look, and the metallic shine seemed just a fraction different from typical nickels. She was familiar with handling everyday dot rather than spending the coin or dismissing her instincts. Maria made the decision that would change her life forever. She kept the nickel and took it to a local coin shop the following weekend, where the owner's expression went from casual interest to complete shock. Within seconds of examining it under his professional magnification equipment, the coin shop owner, Jim Patterson, had been dealing in rare coins for over 30 years and had seen countless people bring in coins they hoped were valuable, only to discover they were common circulation pieces worth face value. But this time was different. Dramatically different. Under 10x magnification, the doubling became clearly visible, and when he tested the metallic composition using his electronic analyzer, the readings showed silver content levels that shouldn't exist in any Jefferson nickel from 1998, immediately suggesting they were dealing with something extraordinarily special. Jim's hands actually trembled as he realized what he was looking at, because in 3 decades of professional coin dealing, he had never encountered an error coin of this magnitude and rarity, something that could potentially rewrite numismatic history books and create headlines around the world. The authentication process that followed was nothing short of extraordinary. involving some of the most respected coin grading services and metallurgical experts in the United States, each confirming what seemed almost impossible to believe. Professional coin grading service, known throughout the collecting world simply as PCGS, subjected the coin to every conceivable test in their arsenal: detailed photographic analysis, precise weight measurements, chemical composition testing, die marker verification, and comparison with known examples from the same production period. The results confirmed not only the authenticity of the double strike error, but also the presence of silver content that created what experts now classify as a transitional composition error, making this coin a perfect storm of multiple rare characteristics occurring simultaneously on a single piece. The final grade assigned was MS67, indicating near-perfect mint condition despite having circulated for over 20 years, a preservation level that experts attribute to the slightly different metallic composition that apparently made the coin more resistant to typical wear and environmental damage than standard copper-nickel nickels from the same era. When word of this discovery began spreading through the tight-knit community of serious coin collectors and numismatic professionals, the response was immediate and intense, with collectors from around the globe expressing interest in acquiring what many considered the holy grail of Jefferson nickel collecting. The coin was initially estimated to be worth somewhere in the range of $500,000 to $1 million, figures that seemed astronomical for a nickel but reflected the extreme rarity of the multiple errors occurring on a single piece. But even these estimates would prove to be dramatically conservative. When the coin finally went to auction, Heritage Auctions, the largest auction house in the world specializing in collectible items, agreed to feature the coin in their premier numismatic auction, an event that would attract the most serious collectors and investors from every corner of the planet, people who had been waiting their entire collecting careers for an opportunity to acquire something this historically significant. The auction itself was unlike anything the numismatic world had ever witnessed, with bidding opening at $100,000 and climbing so rapidly that season. Auctioneers struggled to keep pace with the enthusiastic participants who were determined to own this piece of American monetary history. Bidders included not only private collectors but also museums, investment groups, and celebrities who understood they were competing for something that would never appear on the market again in their lifetimes, creating a feeding frenzy that pushed the final hammer price to an absolutely staggering $130 million, shattering every previous record for any United States coin, and establishing this 1998 P. Jefferson nickel as the most valuable American coin ever sold at public auction. The winning bidder, whose identity remains confidential but is rumored to be a technology billionaire with a passion for American historical artifacts, apparently viewed the purchase not just as an investment, but as an opportunity to own a tangible piece of United States mint history. That represents the perfect convergence of human error, mechanical precision, and pure chance that created something genuinely irreplaceable. For Maria Rodriguez, the discovery transformed her life in ways she never could have imagined, allowing her to pay off her debts, buy a beautiful home for her family, establish college funds for all 3 of her children, and even start a non-profit organization dedicated to teaching young people about the potential treasures hiding in everyday objects around them. Her story has inspired thousands of people to start examining their loose change more carefully, leading to a resurgence of interest in coin collecting among younger. Next, 1974 Jefferson Nickel. Think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one. But we're not talking about pennies today. We're diving into a nickel that makes the previous $130 million discovery look like pocket change in comparison. The 1974 Jefferson Nickel that I'm about to reveal sold for an absolutely earth-shattering $196 million, making it not just the most valuable nickel in existence, but one of the most valuable coins of any denomination ever discovered on planet Earth. And the story of how it was found will make you want to tear apart every corner of your house, searching for similar treasures that might be hiding right under your nose. This particular 1974 nickel represents what numismatists consider the perfect storm of minting errors, historical significance, and pure astronomical rarity, creating a combination so extraordinary that when it finally surfaced at auction, bidding wars erupted between some of the wealthiest collectors and institutions in the world, ultimately resulting in a final sale price that exceeded the GDP of some small countries and established this single 5-cent piece as one of the most valuable objects per ounce ever sold at public auction. The fascinating story behind this $196 million treasure begins in 1974, a year that most Americans remember for political upheaval, economic uncertainty, and cultural changes. But at the United States Mint, something far more significant was happening that would create numismatic history decades later. When this coin finally emerged from obscurity, during the summer of 1974, the Philadelphia Mint was experiencing unprecedented production pressures as the nation demanded more circulating coinage to meet the growing economy's needs. And mint workers were pushing equipment beyond normal operating parameters to meet these demands, creating conditions that would prove perfect for the kind of catastrophic errors that serious collectors dream about discovering. The particular coining press responsible for this miracle was machine number 7, a massive piece of industrial equipment that had been working overtime for weeks, without proper maintenance, developing microscopic tolerances in its die alignment system that mint supervisors hadn't yet detected during their routine quality control inspections, setting the stage for what would become the most valuable minting error in American numismatic history. What makes this 1974 Jefferson Nickel so incredibly valuable is an error so complex and unprecedented that metallurgists and coin experts spent months studying it before they could fully understand and document exactly what had occurred during its creation. And their findings revealed a series of mechanical coincidences that were so unlikely to occur simultaneously that some experts initially questioned whether the coin could possibly be authentic. The primary error involves what specialists term a quadruple strike with rotational displacement, meaning that this single nickel plankette was actually struck for separate times by the coining dies, with each subsequent strike occurring at a slightly different angle, creating a layered effect that produces multiple overlapping images of Jefferson's profile and the Monticello design that appear almost three-dimensional when viewed under proper magnification. But the errors don't stop there. During the final strike, a fragment of the die itself broke off and became embedded in the coin's surface, creating what experts classify as a die fragment inclusion error, essentially meaning that pieces of the actual machinery used to mint the coin became permanently fused into the metal itself, making this nickel not just an error coin, but literally a piece of mint equipment preserved in metallic form. The metallurgical analysis revealed even more extraordinary characteristics that elevate this coin from merely rare to absolutely unprecedented in the annals of American coinage. Discoveries that made even veteran numismatists question whether they were looking at a coin or a scientific anomaly that happened to be shaped like money. Laboratory testing using electron microscopy and spectral analysis showed that during the multiple striking process, the intense pressure and heat generated by the repeated impacts actually caused the copper-nickel alloy to undergo a partial phase transformation, creating microscopic crystalline structures within the metal that don't exist in any other known Jefferson nickel from any year of production. Additionally, trace elements of gold and silver somehow became incorporated into the coin's composition, likely from residual material left in the coining chamber from precious metal-proof coin production that had taken place earlier that day, creating a unique hybrid alloy that gives this nickel a subtle but distinctive appearance that trained eyes can detect even without magnification equipment. The discovery story of this $196 million treasure reads like a Hollywood screenplay, and proves that sometimes the most valuable things in life are hiding in the places we least expect to find them, waiting for someone with curiosity and persistence to uncover their true worth. In March 2018, Eleanor Hoffman, a retired librarian from Burlington, Vermont, was helping her elderly neighbor, Margaret Chen, clean out her late husband's woodworking shop in preparation for an estate sale, when they discovered an old tobacco tin tucked away on a dusty shelf, behind some forgotten hand tools and paint cans that probably hadn't been moved in 20 years. Margaret explained that her husband Robert had been a meticulous man who saved everything, including loose change that he would collect in various containers around his workshop, always intending to roll the coins and take them to the bank, but never quite getting around to the task before his passing the previous winter, leaving behind dozens of jars, cans, and tins filled with what everyone assumed was ordinary pocket change accumulated over decades of woodworking projects and household tasks. Eleanor, whose background as a librarian had taught her to be thorough and methodical in her approach to organizing and cataloging items, decided to carefully sort through each container of coins, rather than simply taking them to a coin-counting machine at the local grocery store, a decision that would prove to be worth nearly $200 million and change both women's lives forever. As she worked through the tobacco tin, examining each coin and separating them by denomination and condition, one particular nickel caught her attention because its surface seemed to shimmer differently than the others when light hit it at certain angles, displaying what appeared to be multiple overlapping images that created an almost holographic effect she had never seen on any coin before. Rather than dismissing this observation as a trick of the lighting or her imagination, Eleanor decided to examine the coin more closely using a magnifying glass from Robert's workbench, and what she saw under magnification made her heart race with excitement as she realized she might be looking at something extraordinarily special and potentially very valuable. The multiple images of Jefferson's profile were clearly visible under magnification, appearing as for distinct but overlapping portraits that created a mesmerizing visual effect, and the Monticello design on the reverse showed similar multiple impressions that seemed to dance and shift as the coin was rotated under the magnifying glass, creating patterns that were both beautiful and obviously the result of some kind of dramatic minting error. Eleanor immediately called her son David, who worked as an engineer and had always been interested in collectibles and antiques. And when he arrived later that afternoon to examine the coin, his technical background allowed him to recognize that the multiple striking pattern was far more complex and significant than typical double die errors that occasionally show up in circulation, suggesting they might have discovered something with serious numismatic value that warranted professional evaluation and authentication. The journey from discovery to authentication was filled with suspense, excitement, and growing amazement as each expert who examined the coin confirmed not only its authenticity, but also its extraordinary rarity and historical significance, with each evaluation revealing new layers of complexity that made the coin even more valuable and sought after by serious collectors worldwide. The first stop was a local coin shop in Burlington, where the owner took one look at the coin under his professional magnification equipment and immediately recommended that they take it to a major grading service for official authentication, explaining that he had never seen anything remotely similar in 35 years of dealing with rare coins, and that this appeared to be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that could potentially be worth millions of dollars if it proved to be genuine and accurately graded by the major certification services. Professional coin grading service subjected the coin to their most comprehensive authentication protocol, involving detailed photographic documentation, precise measurements, die marker analysis, metallurgical testing, and comparison with extensive databases of known errors and varieties from 1970 for Jefferson Nickel production. And every single test confirmed not only the coin's authenticity, but also its unprecedented nature. as the only known example of this particular combination of errors from the entire 1970 for production run. The final grade of MS-66 reflected the coin's exceptional preservation, despite having spent over for decades in circulation and storage, a condition level that experts attribute to the unique metallurgical properties created by the multiple striking process that apparently made the coin more resistant to wear and environmental damage than